So today, lads, we saw a clip from the Sue Bird podcast, and I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed because this is a podcast, by the way, that if we're being completely honest, a big reason why people care about it is because of the current growth. Because of the current growth in the WNBA. It's not like Sue Bird's not one of the biggest names of all time. Let's be real. But the reason why you're seeing, again, Angel Reese podcast doing well, Sophie, to a much bigger extent, a Sophie Cunningham podcast killing it. And to be fair, Angel Reese everything has been from her own growth. I will have to give her credit where credit's due there.
After Clark's extended absence, Sabrina Merchant of The Athletic revealed the first shocking information that confirmed what appeared improbable. She was doing more than simply playing hoops. Without a doubt, she was Caitlin Clark. Merchant described Clark's engagement, her obvious joy at returning to the court, and the power of her well-known style. Despite the lengthy layoff, there was no reason to doubt her preparedness because it was a declaration rather than a timid comeback. The tone for what would turn out to be the camp's pivotal discovery was established by this overwhelming confirmation from an experienced observer.
If there are bad things with the growth, you can blame Caitlin Clark. You're allowed to blame Caitlin Clark for the bad things, but you're not allowed credit her for the good things. And it's so disappointing to see a podcast. And whatever, Super can't control her guest. But posting this as like, it's part of the growth, we're watching it in real time. And her essentially co-signing that Caitlin Clark's everything's wrong with the WNBA. That is what I took from this comment. And that's basically what it is. It's like, oh, it was great beforehand. What about beforehand? Like, we can be real. We have to be 1,000,000% honest here. Beforehand, there was a reason why outside of the Aces and sometimes the Liberty, if you got 3,000 people at a game, it was a shock. Before Caitlin Clark. For any team. Outside.
Given the circumstances surrounding Merchant's injuries, the details she provided were enough to make any fan shudder. That distinctive stride back three was there, unwavering and unadulterated. As if no time had passed, the breathtaking court vision passes cut past defenses with ease. It wasn't drills that Clark was doing. She was demonstrating that the magic had not diminished by planning plays. This player wasn't recovering from rust. This was an artist taking back control of her work, a vision that went against every anticipation of a return.
Outside of the Aces and sometimes the Liberty, if you got 3,000 people at a game, it was a shock. Before Caitlin Clark. For any team. Outside the Aces and the Liberty. And you got to give credit where credit's due for what the Aces did. And obviously the Liberty, the size, put good money into that. And also, them being based in New York helps. And having Sabrina Ionescu. But you got to give credit where credit's due to the Aces. Like, they absolutely, they were the kind of start of it all. They were the start of being decent franchise. But let's take a listen. This is just ridiculous.
The people that are coming in and watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like maybe they're there for a weird...
Even for her elite new teammates, Caitlin Clark's experience was summed up in a single moment. Merchant told Hanbai about a post-entry pass, a bullet that could only be made by Clark. A pass that defies expectations and traditional timing. Hanbai was briefly taken aback by the trajectory and speed. Instinctively dropped the ball to the ground, producing a block shot. It served as a sharp reminder. Even professionals frequently struggle to keep up with Clark's unmatched vision, since she sees the game one step ahead.
And watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like maybe they're there for a weird reason.
This is 2025. This is 2025. I'm sorry. This is a point that you could maybe have argued early 2024. The WNBA, no offense to the players, is not culturally relevant anymore. As in, like, you are not seeing freaking every single time Caitlin Clark plays a game and it being on worldwide news anymore. Even when Caitlin Clark plays, it is not one of those things where, and this is why I always say we're culturally relevant, where it's like, if you look at Google Trends.
Clark's stunning performance was further enhanced by the extreme brutality she encountered. Merchant emphasized that play at the FIA level is frequently rougher and more intense than in the WNBA. Clark wasn't merely competing against teams of college scouts. A harsh worldwide standard was being applied to her challenges. It was evidence of something more than simply competence that she was told to emulate FIA intensity in order to not only withstand but rather flourish under such strain while continuing to ramp up after her injury. It displayed unadulterated, uncompromising grit.
Plays. It is not one of those things where, and this is why I always say with culture relevant, where it's like, if you look at Google Trends and the amount of people that were searching for things in the WNBA a year ago compared to now was tenfold. It was tenfold a year ago. Everything about the league, because it came at this time where, and they could absolutely be right. A year ago, it did come at a time where obviously a lot of things were politically completely divisive in America, and a lot of people used the WNBA to push those narratives. But there's a million other things that people are pushing for their political.
Merchan wasn't the only one. Annie's recurring motif. Another perceptive observer was equally profound. This camp was the first. When was the last time anyone had actually seen Clark functioning at what seemed to be 100% since her wound? Even Clark acknowledged that she still needed to shake off some rust, demonstrating her self-awareness. However, the observing eyes noticed something distinct, something complete, a sharp contrast to her own modest evaluation, fostering the expanding feeling of general astonishment.
Relevant things in life in the WNBA right now. The people that are still watching are fans of basketball, and to say they're there for weird reasons completely wrong. It's literally like saying, oh, you know, fans of the NBA was on tape delay 2 years ago. You know, all those fans that are here for Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, they're here for a weird reason. They weren't watching on tape delay, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's trying to make that a point. It's ridiculous.
And now they've found sort of maybe one player to hyper-fixate on that they feel stands at odds with what a WNBA player is in their minds.
And the funniest thing about this is, like, you can see.
In particular, Annie gestured to the well-known shot, that smooth long-range projectile that has characterized her career. It was still very much present. Her speed, which was essential to her explosive game, was clearly returning, which was an important indication of her recuperation. Her passing timing remained remarkably accurate, allowing her to connect with teammates with ease. These weren't fleeting impressions. These were regular glimpses of the player that everyone knew, taking the story of her comeback much beyond a straightforward recuperation.
People are following every move Caitlin Clark and going to watch her play golf out of hate. Like, it's fucking bullshit. And again, the fact that this is being put out as a highlight of a clip and it's not pushed back on by these hosts who are supposed to be there growing the game, and you've essentially let someone blame one person who you've had on the podcast, who you've had on your show multiple times, who gave time out of her day to show up on your show at All-Star Weekend, who, by the way, you're in charge of her Team USA and you're allowing this. This is bullshit. This is absolute bullshit.
That they want to have against the rest of the league. And we sort of had this moment where the rest of the fans had to go like, you paid the same money for your ticket, and you being here is also helpful to the sport. And
then Carol Lawson, the voice of authority, spoke. Team USA's coach. Her viewpoint, possibly the most significant, reflected the same shocking topic. When Lawson initially began coaching Clark, he said she was a fantastic player who was focused and locked in. This was more than just coachese etiquette. It was a sincere assessment of a player who is completely focused and committed, leaving an immediate impression on a coach who expects perfection. Lawson provided an intriguing glimpse into Clark's current elite environment, which further solidified the unanimous decision and probably struck a deep chord with the young superstar. She clarified, "Think everyone is really passionate about the game at this point." In sharp contrast, not every athlete in high school or even college has the same level of devotion. This camp was bound to be one of Clark's most enjoyable experiences because she was surrounded by like-minded individuals. An unexpected advantage of her new competitive environment. Coach Lawson assessed Clark's play critically on both ends of the court. Any residual defensive criticism was immediately put into perspective by this frank commentary. It was a strong compliment, particularly from someone in charge of the top level of international competition, to say she looked fantastic on both ends and hadn't missed a beat. It showed that her game was comprehensive, all-encompassing, and not just defined by her offensive prowess. A truly comprehensive and unexpected appraisal. The amusing irony of the situation, as observed by observers, was that critics are always looking for one thing to nitpick when it comes to Clark. At one point, it was turnovers. Now, with so many positive signs, it felt like grasping at straws. While there are always areas for improvement, mid-range game defense, the sheer overwhelming positivity from multiple independent sources made any minor flaws seem almost insignificant. Looked fantastic. This wasn't only a casual comment. It carried the weight of a seasoned player, an experienced participant in numerous high-stakes camps. Bird's poignant comment that Clark looked fantastic after missing more than a year of competitive basketball due to injury reinforced the recurring theme. Bird acknowledged the difficulties that come with coming back from an extended layoff, emphasizing the conditioning aspect in particular. It is quite challenging to get into basketball shape without playing the game. Bird viewed Clark succeeding in spite of this acknowledged obstacle, believing that her conditioning would only get better as the program went on. This subtle finding made Clark's initial impact even more remarkable, demonstrating her natural skill that surpasses physical constraints. Bird also cited rhythm as a crucial factor. It can be difficult to regain one's rhythm after a protracted hiatus. However, Bird saw Clark in sync already. She alluded to the one stride back in transition that everyone witnessed, a move that needed confidence and precise timing. The widespread perception that Clark was back was further strengthened by the fact that her rhythm looked fantastic so fast, confounding the usual difficulties of a return. Bird stressed that it was crucial for all of these guys to be in close proximity to one another both on and off the floor. While each individual win plays and highlights are examined, the overwhelmingly positive comments about Clark's performance and presence indicate that she was not only blending in but also flourishing in this elite setting, which is important for both her personal growth and the cohesiveness of the team, a crucial but frequently disregarded aspect of such camps. All of the building's skilled eyes reinforced the same subject, which was a loud confirmation. Caitlin Clark appeared to be herself. Despite the recognized need to improve conditioning, regain her rhythm, and shake off rust, she appeared to be back. The foundation of her strategy is the inherent components of any return. She still had her essence. It was more than just hope. It was verifiable, tangible proof from numerous experts. Viewpoints. She spoke of the rust, the conditioning, and the rhythm. All of them were acknowledged as normal steps in her return to the floor. The widespread consensus among those there, however, contradicted the notion that these factors would considerably impede her progress. Rather, they were viewed as small adjustments to a machine that was already operating at a high level. A startling demonstration of her innate talent and commitment. Their unanimous evaluation was more than simply positive news to all the skilled observers, seasoned coaches, renowned players, and perceptive reporters in the building. It was a potent affirmation. It proved she was in good health, that nothing had disappeared from the map, and it was only reasonable to assume that her trajectory would continue to rise after this. The basketball community was giddy with anticipation after this one unanimous decision. This potent concept was mirrored by Clark herself, who affirmed that she felt fully recovered. A picture of a player not only recuperating but totally re-emerging with renewed vigor was painted by this self-assurance and the overwhelming external validation. Her own emotions were in perfect harmony with what everyone else had seen, resulting in a compelling story for her eagerly awaited comeback to competitive play. That's the indisputable conclusion. Caitlin Clark has returned, feeling fully recovered and prepared to take action. Everyone was shocked not just by her unquestionable talent returning, but also by the unwavering constancy with which each and every observer came to the same profoundly favorable opinion. Her injury-related worries have been definitively addressed, paving the way for an exciting March comeback with team.